Well, I'm actually beginning with you. Where did this idea for the Dragged Across Concrete sort of first born from for you?
So I came up with this idea shortly after finishing up with Bone Tomahawk, and I knew I wanted to do another ensemble piece like Bone Tomahawk, which this is a way that Brawl Cell Block 99 is different. And I wanted to do a bunch of different viewpoints. I'd written a crime show for HBO that got kind of torpedoed the moment they picked up True Detective. So it was going, and that cast was...
Sorry about that.
Cast member of that show is apologizing. We now have that moment captured. But and so it was really enjoyable writing that show, and that show was actually, I think, maybe there was one white person in the show, and I just really enjoyed. I was kind of bringing in all these different elements in terms of the dialogue, and I knew I wanted to play with that in a crime context. And then I came up with a rough idea, and the title Dragged Across Concrete. But as is always the case with my writing, it goes in a different direction than I anticipated. And the Henry Johns character, which is masterfully done by Tory Kittles, kind of grew and grew as I wrote it, and just kind of took on its own life as a character, and then ultimately as a human being. So I love Prince of the City, The Killing, Heat, Gun Crazy, a lot of the Joseph H. Lewis stuff. And I really just wanted to do something like that, and just a big piece, and not a short one, and a large-scale crime piece.
Because Tory is a great character to get your teeth stuck into. But what was the initial attraction to get involved in this? Had you seen sort of Brawl and Bone Tomahawk beforehand?
I'd seen Bone Tomahawk. Actually, Sam Jackson was a person who told me about that movie, years back. He told you too?
Yeah.
Sam has a way of doing that. And and so he told me about this movie, and I watched it, and I was doing Shakespeare. I was going to the theater, and my agent says, hey, you got to, read the script. It's from this guy Zahler. And I'd never put two and two together that Zahler was the guy who did Bone Tomahawk. So anyway, I found out it's him, and so I come, back to my apartment after being at the theater on stage, and I start reading, and it was something I inherently knew when I read this character. I was surprised, though, as I'm sure you were when you see the film. You're just surprised that the ending is going to be, what it becomes. Just like, wait a minute, what? You're going to let me do this? And so it was one of those things that I was like, I know this. I don't have to act this. This is inside of me. And I got on the phone with Zahler the next day. And we talked about it, maybe 30-minute conversation, and he said, I'm going to offer it to you. Now, I've been told that before by people, and it never happened. And but the next day, he offered the role. So, it was a gift. It's a gift to be able to play a character such as Henry Johns and, to work with somebody like Zahler.
Yeah, and for the record, once I took a look at more of his work, because I was familiar with him from a few different things and just wanted to dive deeper, I knew he was the guy, and the only reason he wasn't offered it on that initial call was because I was obligated to see some people who'd set aside time to come in and read, some of whom were quite good, but none of whom were Tory Kittles.
And of course, you get to share the screen with Mel Gibson. Not to give too much away, but you do get to share the screen with Mel Gibson. What was that like? I interviewed him earlier. I mean, it was for Daddy's Home too, so it wasn't, it was more serious pieces of work. But I walked in, and you were like, "That's Mel Gibson," and he sits there, a real presence. I mean, does he have that same kind of aura on set that he gives off, that he's that real movie star, that kind of quality?
Well, I'll say it was never dull. No, he does. He comes with this aura, but actually when you talk to Mel, it's just like talking to you right now. He's so personable, and he's so open, and actually he's one of the more generous actors I've ever worked with. He's a great listener. And he shares his life, he shares his stories, and I appreciated that about him, and I had a great time working with him.
And what made him, for you, the sort of perfect cast for this particular role?
Yeah, I mean, this is someone with an incredibly interesting face, and in terms of the Ridgman character, this is someone who's been through a lot and is embittered by some of these experiences, but is solution oriented. And so I think some of that wear that you see on his face, like William Holden in The Wild Bunch, or Dennis Farina on Crime Story. There's an interesting face, and there's a lot of history there. And then Mel Gibson also comes with that incredible Mel Gibson voice, and his ability to land the cadences in this dialogue was terrific. And this is something I'm guilty of. Like mostly I'm casting people based on how good they are as performers, but you're going to get a couple extra notches up if you've got a voice like Tory Kittles or Mel Gibson or Fred Melamed or Don Johnson. That's just really important to me, and certainly just hearing the dialogue land with people who understand how it should land, and then also have terrific voices delivering it is really great. He just inhabited this character. It was a great thing to see.
Yeah, Fred's voice is quite something.
Yeah, Fred Melamed's voice is definitely something.
I was wondering about your films. Obviously, they're all genre movies, but what would you? They're all very different from each other. But what would you say? Is there a continuing theme, a strand, something that you think ties your films together?
It's because I don't come from the place of really like wanting to get a message out. I would rather people come away with their own personal interactions with the characters. I identify with that guy, or that guy's an asshole, and that might be the same person that two different people are identifying with or disliking because of what they bring to the table. Certainly, perseverance is a theme I see in a lot of my work, where people are in grim situations and they just keep pushing forward. It's a little bit more clear in the first two movies than this, but you have this situation of a lot of people doing stuff that they don't necessarily want to do, but economic situations force them to do those things. So I think that perseverance and maybe, doing the wrong thing for the right reason are themes that come up a lot in all of these movies.
Yeah, also the sort of protagonists in a sort of quite a subversive way are, I think when you go into a movie like this, you anticipate that you're going to attach yourself to the hero of the piece, and you see these two detectives and you instantly think they're going to be the heroes of this piece. Mm-hmm. But then as it's sort of within 3 or 4 minutes, you go, oh, they're assholes. These are nice people. And then, what's the kind of idea behind that? Having lead roles and people that we usually kind of embody, but actually they're very flawed, to say the least.
I'm just interested in doing 3-dimensional characters, and that's the thing with those guys. Certainly, someone can watch those characters and say, just as you've done, they're assholes. I look at them as two different guys. Richmond is the guy that Anthony might become, but maybe he won't become. The way that they interact with people on the street and in their daily life, it's different than how they interact with people at home. And so, what's the job and what's them, and what does the job bring out of them? That's part of who they are. And what are they doing on the job that is performance as part of the job? And so, to me, all of that, like I wouldn't call these guys assholes. I would say some of the things that they do are inappropriate. But why are they doing it? And is it just some bad nature that's coming out, or some of it performance? And I don't want to give away those answers. It's just stuff to play with for the actors and stuff for the audience to think about. But I think they're interesting characters, and I would rather see a lot more movies with interesting characters and people making bad decisions for the right reasons, and just kind of more complicated characters than just straight up heroes wearing spandex.
Yeah, because I was wondering too. I mean, Tory, when you generally speaking, across your career, do you find you have to like a character in order to portray them?
No, not at all. Not at all. I like what he likes, like the 3-dimensional characters. I like guys that are flawed. I like characters that are flawed. I like characters that are good, that make bad choices. I like bad guys who do good things. It's all about what's on the page, though. Really, it begins with the scribe. It begins with that blueprint into the world, and so when you read a script like Dragged Across Concrete, it's something where I was surprised. Honestly, I'd never seen anything like that for myself, to the point where I was shocked at the outcome. We get so conditioned to reading things and seeing things a certain way, and then, every now and then a writer can come along and just blow your mind with an ending, and you just go, wow, didn't see that coming.
Next up, you've got Wonder Darkly, is that right? That's what IMDb tells me.
I just, good old IMDb. I just finished I Wonder Darkly, yes, with Sienna Miller and Diego Luna, and I'm going to go do Harriet, but I can't talk about what.
So can you talk about Wonder Darkly, or just your character, how he fits into that story?
I can tell you that I play a love interest for Sienna Miller's character.
Nice. Cool.
Yeah, quite nice.
Yeah, okay, brilliant. Thanks so much, guys. Much appreciated.
Cool. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys.
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey You Guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yeah.
Nice.
Hey You Guys.